What's going on, y'all? It's your man, Stephen Bardo, coming at you with another edition of Bardo's Breakdown. Best time of year, y'all. But like a lot of seasons, Big Ten not going to be much a part of it, unfortunately. Once again, pretty disappointing to have one team out of 8 advance to the second weekend. Hope you guys doing well. I'm a little tired, as you can probably see. It's a long season, y'all, and I loved my time with Westwood One. Was able to cover the first and second round in Birmingham, Alabama, with Brandon Gaudin as my play-by-play partner, and Andy Garcia was our producer, and we had a great time. I believe we had the best first and second rounds of the tournament. We had 2 number 1 seeds in Birmingham, plus we had Auburn in Birmingham. Alabama was there. Houston was there. Maryland was there. Iowa was there. So in terms of, for Brandon and me, in terms of research and knowledge of teams and whatnot, it really panned out to be really, really good for us. So it was very enjoyable. It was good to see Iowa and their players and coaches, and Maryland and their players and coaches, and be able to cover them. Got a chance to cover Maryland 2 games because they won their first round matchup versus West Virginia. Really close, hard-fought game. Iowa lost their first round matchup with Auburn, which was interesting, with the storylines being Bruce Pearl, former assistant at Iowa, comes back and coaches against his former team that he was an assistant with. So all in all, it was a great experience. It was rough, though. Boy, you call 4 games in a day. So we called 6 games over the weekend, which is great, like I said, but it's tiring. It can wear you out. And you can probably hear my voice that, I don't know, maybe I strained it a little bit or something, but it's like an octave lower. But I'm going to bring the energy for y'all, because y'all always bring the energy for me. So I'm just going to jump into it. What's wrong with the Big Ten, y'all? Can we figure out what's wrong with the Big Ten? Can we come up with some solutions here today in our brief time that we're going to have here to discuss? I think we can. If you want to join the tribe that is the Inner Circle, you see the number 312-847-2739. You can text me. You can jump on the email as well, stephenbardo.com/college-basketball-newsletter. So, Michigan State, the only team to advance past first weekend. So we had Iowa, like I mentioned, in terms of them losing to Auburn. Just not a great showing at all for them. And I won't go over all the Big Ten teams that lost and everything, because we know what happened. But kudos to Tom Izzo and Michigan State, because Tom Izzo, his roster creation and how he builds his program is generally different from the rest of the Big Ten. They play a style of play that's generally different from the rest of the Big Ten. You don't see teams focus on up-tempo, hardcore rebounding, and solid defense like Michigan State. There are aspects of programs that do. Iowa likes to run. Purdue will hit you on the glass. Purdue, elite rebounding team this past season. Hard-nosed defense. Northwestern, definitely that. Wisconsin, pretty good defensive team. Illinois, too inconsistent this season, but Brad Underwood likes to have solid defensive teams. But there's no one in the Big Ten puts together their roster creation like Michigan State. And so Tom Izzo, does he want to win Big Ten championships? Of course he does. But you don't see the plotting big men. Michigan State has bigs, but they're agile, they're active. And when you get the ball to them, they can score. Cooper, who's coming on as of late, Jackson Kohler is a very talented offensive player. Madi Sissoko is more of a rim runner, rim protector, but those guys fit what Michigan State wants to do. They want to rebound the basketball as good as any team. They want to get on the break. And then Tom Izzo goes and gets electric guards. Tyson Walker came from Northeastern University, ladies and gentlemen. He wasn't recruited to the Power Five. So if you're going to advance in the NCAA tournament, I think this season is showing it the best, because let's take a look. I'm going to give you the teams that are in the Sweet 16 right now, and I'm going to go over their point guards and what year they are. UConn's point guard Newton is a senior. Kansas State's Noel is a senior. Arkansas's Anthony Black is a freshman, but he's a lottery pick. He's a future pro. FAU Greenlee, by the way, Greenlee started his career at Minnesota. He's now at Florida Atlantic. He's a junior. Tennessee's Vescovy, he's a senior. Zakar Ziegler tore up his knee, who was their starting point guard for the majority of the season. He's a sophomore. He's special. He's all SEC. Bolton at Gonzaga, who he had a stop in his career at Penn State. He's a senior. UCLA's Campbell is a senior. Veteran guards, I continue. San Diego State, Bradley, senior. Quinterly from Alabama, who I believe is the best team in the tournament, senior. Miami's Nigel Pack was all Big 12 at Kansas State before he transferred to Miami. I'm not sure if he was all ACC this year. He might have been second or third team. He could be a future pro. He's a little small, but he can go. Like, he got paid by Miami in the transfer portal. He got paid, right? And Wong is a senior who's ACC Player of the Year that went off on Indiana for 27. He's a senior. Houston, Jamal Shedd, that's a mistake. Jamal Shedd's a junior, but Marcus Sasser is a senior. Nimhard, the sophomore point guard from Creighton, he's exceptional. He's a sophomore, but he's exceptional. Princeton's guard, Langboard, senior. Sule Boom for Xavier, senior. Texas, you guys remember Marcus Carr, Minnesota? He's a senior. So all of these teams in the Sweet 16, what do they have in common? They don't have a freshman point guard outside of Anthony Black at Arkansas. And he's a pro. So let's look at let's think about the Big Ten guards. All right. I knew Purdue was going to be in trouble. Everybody that was close to me, I told them, you're not going to win with two freshman point guards that aren't future pros. They were good. They were really good. But was Purdue the best team in the country for a period of time? Did you really think when you saw that? Like, you guys will notice I don't really do the rankings because it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like, I think it gets the fans involved maybe, and gets those programs activated possibly when you're in the top 25 and you're being talked about. But was Purdue were they ever the best team in the country? I didn't see it. That's just me. Illinois. You go with a young man named Sky Clark. Doesn't work out. Then you bring in Jaden Epps, who can play point, but he's really a two. So you have an issue at the point guard position in Illinois because you're trying to rely on freshmen, right? So if you're like Arkansas and you got pros and you got length, then you can ride a freshman point guard through the season and hope by the time they get to the tournament, like Anthony Black in Arkansas, that they can play their best basketball when it counts most. Arkansas is going for their third straight Elite Eight appearance. Now, I would ask you, Big Ten fans, would you want an Elite Eight appearance, or would you want to contend in the Big Ten for a regular season championship? Me, as we're going to get to, because I'm going to show you how teams and conferences are paid out by the NCAA, I want tournament runs. Yes, I like conference championships, no doubt. But I like tournament runs. I'm going to show you exactly from a financial standpoint why conferences want NCAA runs more than they want to figure out who is the conference champion. It still means a lot. Don't get me wrong. I'm a purist. I love conference regular season championships. It means a ton. But I'm going to show you why this is so important. we talk about the guards, right? So you got to have dynamic guard play, and it can't be freshmen, because if it's freshmen, then you're gonna have to take your lumps. And if you're a fan base that's okay with taking lumps in hopes that a Chucky Hepburn will, you know, lead you to a promised land because you threw him in as a freshman, okay, I get that. If you're Michigan and you are forced to play Doug McDaniel because Jalen Llewellyn, who was a transfer from Princeton, tore his ACL at the beginning of the year, so now you got to ride with a freshman. You hope for Michigan that, okay, you got through this season, you were teetering with a tournament bid, and now you had to go to the NIT. You hope that next season, because you went with this freshman point guard, that he can get you over the hump because he's got a freshman year to see it. You hope that you're Purdue, that Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, they went through their ups and downs and lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament as a 1 seed. You hope that next season there'll be a payoff there. Creighton with a sophomore point guard in Ryan Nimhard, they went through their lumps last year. They were beaten by Georgetown in the Big East Championship. They got to the tournament, but they went out early. So you hope there's a payoff there. But my point is that when you're looking at these Big Ten teams and you don't have quick, dynamic, playmaking guards, you're not going very far. Tyson Walker can go get his own shot. He's got quickness. He's got a jump shot that sets up the rest of his game. If you don't have a guard like that, you can't advance. All right? Let's look at roster formation. You better do your homework on your transfers. I'm just saying. I threw up some names of some transfers that came to the Big Ten this season. Let's see how those teams fared. I didn't put Minnesota up there because Dawson Garcia and point guard came from Morehead State. Minnesota, I don't think was expected to do much this season. They just had a lot of injuries. They were very young. I didn't expect them in the tournament, so I didn't list them. But Shannon and Meyer came to Illinois with great promise, right? I think Shannon fulfilled the hype that he came in with. Did Meyer? I don't know. You invest the type of NIL money you invested in Matthew Meyer and you got 2 points in a tournament game? I don't know. Maryland got to the second round. They had Jameer Young and Don Carey. Worked out pretty good. That worked out well for him. Max Klesmit at Wisconsin, I don't think that he was on the level of a Jameer Young, a Terrence Shannon, or Matthew Meyer, but I think he panned out pretty well for Wisconsin. They're still playing the NIT, and he's playing his best basketball of the season. Cam Winter, Andrew Funk at Penn State. I think that worked out pretty well. They got to the second round of the NCAA tournament, right? Likely and McNeil at Ohio State. They didn't get to any tournament, but they seemed to blend in at the end of the season. David Jenkins from Purdue, he started playing more and more as the season got going because it's nut crunching time. You guys are vet in there. So roster formation with these transfers, you got to be careful. How are they going to blend? Right? How do they blend? You saw there were teams like Michigan State that didn't take a transfer. Northwestern had a transfer in Verhoeven, but he wasn't. I mean, he's more of a role player. He wasn't really counted on. Northwestern didn't take a transfer, impact transfer. Michigan had an impact transfer. Well, they had two, actually. Joey Baker did pretty well. Rutgers, Cam Spencer did very well. I thought he blended in quite nicely. So you got to be careful with the roster formation. And if we were to go back, I didn't do it for the Sweet 16 teams, but their impact transfers, obviously chemistry-wise, have been seamless. because you can't get to the Sweet 16 without great chemistry. All right. Now, I keep asking, what's wrong with the Big Ten? Let me ask you this. Let me bring this to you, because many of you may not know this. So the NCAA pays out conference units. What are conference units? Conference units are when a team plays in the NCAA tournament. There's a number that goes to each school, their conference, for each team that plays a game. You don't even have to win, you just have to play the game. So each unit is worth $337,000. Payouts are based on a 6-year rolling period, and the payouts rise 3%. So my theory with the Big Ten, they have all these teams in, but they don't advance. But they've almost set up like an endowment situation. Because if you're getting 7 to 9 schools in a year and you're getting payouts per school per year over a 6-year rolling period, you would, I don't know, I would think you would want to go deeper in the tournament. So here's the SEC so far. I calculated out of Missouri, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, Auburn, and Texas A&M. So the SEC got 2, 4, 6, 7 teams in, right? And out of the games that they're playing, because I added up the Sweet 16 games that Alabama, Tennessee, and Arkansas are going to play in, they've got 16 units so far. That's $5,392,000, and that's still counting. Because I like Alabama to win the national championship. Let me see who the other 2 SEC schools are matched up with. Arkansas versus UConn. That's going to be a tough game. I think I like UConn in that one. Tennessee could very well beat Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic, I told you guys, I told a lot of people I thought they'd beat Memphis, and they handled them. Tennessee, I think, though, their size and physicality may wear Florida Atlantic down. So that's another unit. And then where's the other? Alabama, think can win a national championship. So when you look at the payout so far for the SEC, it's $5,392,000. Now, if you get 8 or 9 teams in every year, like you do the Big Ten, and you have, I don't know, 10 to 12 units, you're looking at somewhere in the range. If we say $337,000 per payout, and you get 10 units a year, you're looking at a $3 to $4 million endowment, whether you went deep in the tournament or not. Paid out over a 6-year rolling period. So if you take the last 10 seasons of Big Ten, and that number continues to rise every year, that payout number. So maybe 10 years ago, it might have been at 200,000. But you guys are starting to get my point, right? So economically, the Big Ten is fine. Nationally, from a competitive perspective, they're getting crushed. And I mean, Jim Boeheim, what he said about Big Ten last year in the tournament, he's right. Big Ten in the tournament this year, he's right. I hate to admit it, but he's right. But I kept scratching my head like the SEC went out and wanted to make sure that their basketball conference was competitive. So they went out and made sure that when they made hires, they made really good basketball hires. And so now you're looking at the SEC as one of the most successful conferences in the country basketball-wise. And that wasn't the case 15, 20 years ago. So they're not only have gotten more competitive, but now they're growing their NCAA tournament endowment, is, for lack of a better word, is what I'll call it. So is the Big Ten more concerned with making sure that endowment's in place, or are they really trying to win a national championship? Because to me, if you're really trying to win a national championship as a program and as a conference, then the coaches that you bring in from here on out need to have a style that's conducive to March, not for Big Ten basketball, right? If that's what is really important, okay? So I had to be very careful how I word these things, because obviously I make my living covering the Big Ten Conference, and I love working with the Big Ten Conference. So, but I got to call a spade and a deuce a deuce. Crumbs BYMF, what's good? They say, are you surviving the madness? I am. Yeah. I always survive. I'm just a little bit tired because you know what? Instead of watching, I'm getting paid, Carol. It's always good to get paid to watch the tournament. Struggle is an understatement. Paul Miller, Paul, that's definitely part of it. Not enough team speed. If you look at the last two times that Purdue has been upset, it's been by smaller, quicker, faster teams that just make them their methodical style. It really disrupts their methodical style. If you get after Purdue, I mean, we saw it towards the end of the regular season. I saw it early in the conference slate when Maryland was at Purdue. Me and Brandon Gaudin are calling a Fox Sports game at Purdue. Purdue is controlling the game in the first half. The second half, Maryland starts to pressure. Oh boy, it didn't look good. And Maryland had a chance to tie at the end of regulation and missed a three to send it to overtime. They were getting smashed early. They turned the defense up and they pressured Purdue. And that was a harbinger of things to come. And then as you got into the season, late in the season, Purdue hit the skids like every Big Ten team did because teams were pressuring their guards, getting after them. So I think overall team speed, yes, is a problem in the Big Ten. Thank you, Paul. Mike Ashenfelter, good to see you. Thank you for joining. I will give it a shot. The style of play the Big Ten plays, no doubt about it. Going to games are rough. 4 games in one day, almost too many games in a day. I was in Des Moines. Well, and here's the thing. Okay, now you're saying going to the games are rough. 4 days in one game. Now, if some NCAA coaches have it their way, they want to expand the tournament to 96 teams, y'all. That's too much. Don't broke what's not fixed. Don't fix what is not broken. There's no need to fix the tournament. We don't need any more teams. You're hearing it from a fan he or she went to the games. They paid money. They paid concessions. They might have paid apparel. They paid parking. They paid all this stuff. And he's saying 4 games is a lot in one day. Don't screw this up, NCAA. Don't add any more games. What's up, Coach Davis? Good to see you. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It was a lot easier to work with someone that I've got great rapport with, Brandon Gaudin. Congratulations to Brandon Gaudin. He's the new voice of the Atlanta Braves. And Brandon is a pro, very similar to Kevin Kugler, very similar to Lisa Byington, very similar to all the play-by-play people that I work with Big Ten Network, Fox Sports, and Westwood One. Very professional, very easy to slip into analyst role on the radio where we talk less. Analysts on television talk more. Analysts on radio talk less. Brandon's a pro. He's easy to fit in with. Andy Garcia was fun to work with as producer. But thank you. It was a great time. I loved it. Everybody looks quicker than my Illini. Everybody looks quicker than most Big Ten teams outside of Michigan State and maybe Maryland. Maryland did a pretty good job in the first half against Alabama. Juju Reese got in foul trouble, but they slowed the tempo down and a half-court set attacking-wise in the first half before they got in foul trouble, and that depth of Alabama wore them down. Maryland's foot speed was good. They were able to keep up with the SEC team. Michigan State able to keep up and pretty much dominate a Marquette team that I thought was a Final Four bound team. But everybody else, Illinois, Iowa, Purdue, everybody else pretty much looked Northwestern played well, and UCLA is not a lightning fast team. They're just a tough veteran ball club. But everybody else looked pedestrian because, the quickness is a problem for Big Ten teams. Every time Big Ten teams that you see get up, Bruce Pearl from Auburn said it. He said the athleticism bothered Iowa. And he said the athleticism is going to bother Big Ten teams. That's coming out of an SEC coach's mouth. And Auburn, he said, was the 10th most athletic out of the 14 SEC teams. Think about that. Iowa leads the Big Ten in scoring. But the 10th most athletic team in the SEC wore Iowa out, and the athleticism difference was noticeable. Chris Murray, who, was getting his shots off in the Big Ten, he was finding it tough to get his shots off against Auburn. They were in his jersey. It was tough for him. So that ought to be telling for you Big Ten fans that an SEC coach who's coaching the Big Ten back in the glory days of the Big Ten, he knows when the Big Ten is at its best. And right now, the 10th most athletic team out of the SEC wore Iowa out, scored on them at will, took them out of what they were trying to do offensively. That was telling for me and Brandon Gaudin, who were sitting there interviewing Bruce between games, and his feedback and thoughts about the level of athleticism from the SEC, from his team, an SEC team, them being a bottom third athletic team in the SEC. There it is right there. It's still a physical league, unlike the other teams in the nation. Carol, see, here's a misnomer. The SEC is physical. The Big East is uber physical. The Big 12 is physical. Big 10 is not the only physical league. It just looks more physical because of the giants that we have roaming the paint. But the SEC is physical. They're physical. Auburn was giving it to Houston. They put 41 points on Houston in the first half. Then Houston cut their lights out. Houston is physical like an SEC Big 10 team, Big 12 team. Physical. I mean, Houston's players, you guys go watch Houston's players. They look more like football. They're built like their strength and conditioning. Kelvin Sampson, he wants big, strong, fast, quick dudes. And they can play with anybody in the country. There's a difference. Big Ten plays slower, set plays. Other conferences run and gun, move faster. I don't want to give this misnomer that these other conferences don't run plays. They don't run sets. They do. They like to get more possessions per game. So they're not like the Big Ten is really hyper-focused on ball control, in my opinion. Every season, you'll see Big Ten teams like Iowa, like Penn State. I think Northwestern was in there for a minute. Like lowest turnover, Maryland was like that, lowest turnovers in the country. Big Ten had maybe 4 teams in the top 20 lowest turnovers per game in the country. So Big Ten is ball possession, crazy ball possession. Big 12 is ball possession is very key in all aspects, all over the college basketball. But in the Big Ten, it's uber focused on ball control, ball possession. Do not turn the rock over. We want to get good looks every possession down. That's good until you play a team that wants to get more possessions. They may not shoot as high a percentage. They may have more turnovers, but they're going to put pressure on you because they're looking to score every time. They're looking for the first quick open three that's a good look from a player on their team that can hit that three. So I don't want you to think that other conferences just run and gun and they don't run a lot of sets. That's not true. They run good sets. They just want more possessions in a game, in my opinion, than Big Ten teams. I feel like Big Ten has great systems, but they are pot committed, poker term, and do a great job of adjustments. MSU is in a class by themselves when it comes to tourney preparation. What's up, Lex? That's a good point. Great systems. You talk about like the sets, probably like what Crumbs was talking about. Yeah, I feel that. It's Tom Izzo, man. He's been to 25 straight NCAA tournaments. You're right about that. They are in a class by themselves. Mike, I would agree. And here's a. I think you guys who are on Bardo's Breakdown and on Facebook, you saw me put out this post where I said, look, Purdue didn't lobby to be the number 1 ranked team in the country for a good part of the season. They didn't lobby to be a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. we have to start looking at the tournament committee's selection process. We have to start looking at the process of how to rank teams. Because I'm sorry, Florida Atlantic was ranked at one point, but may have like dropped a game, and then nobody ever thought about putting them back in. That's a Sweet 16 team. And when I covered them in their conference championship, I could tell this is a great team. Their head coach, Mays, he was a basketball manager for Bobby Knight, and he was an assistant coach for Mike Davis when Mike Davis took Indiana to the national title game. He said that Mike Davis was at one of those pre-conference tournaments. Mike Davis came in and saw Florida Atlantic play, and he came into the locker room and told their team, you guys could be one of the top 15 teams in the country, how together you are and the way that you play. And they go at you. They run good sets, but they come downhill at you. They shoot a lot of threes. They open the floor for driving possibilities. They do a lot of good things. And Mike Davis, Detroit Mercy's head coach and a mentor to Coach Mays, the head coach at Florida Atlantic, could see that early on in the season. So there's a problem. We have a problem in the NCAA with ratings and rankings and tournament seedings. There's a problem with that. Because if you look at their record, yes, Purdue won the Big Ten. But the Big Ten, where are they in terms of ranks in conference play? If we were to look at the results right now, and I know that Jay Billis likes to say that NCAA tournament doesn't necessarily give you the best view of the conference overall. And I disagree. I think it needs to be used as part of the equation. Doesn't have to be the whole equation, but it needs to be part of the equation. And if we were to go back over the years, the Big Ten, they have not done well in the tournament. And in spite of all the national pub, the seedings, the rankings that they receive, they have not been good. So, Mike, I agree with you. Okay, now, Carol, I agree with you. Why is that? Why do other leagues have more athletes in the Big Ten? Is it style of play? Is it, do upper level athletes see themselves being successful in the Big Ten? That's a great question. I don't know the answer. I think Terrence Shannon is an elite athlete. Bryce Sensabaugh is just a pro. And he's a pretty good athlete. He's not a great athlete, but he's athletic enough to go make him some money as a one and done. But Rutgers, tough. Derek Simpson's he's athletic. He's got a little pop to his game, but they're not crazy athletic. They don't scare you with their athleticism. Maryland had decent. Jameer Young was their best athlete. Ian Martinez is a pretty good athlete. But outside of that, they don't scare you. Ohio State, Akpara is a good athlete for a big. They got ballers, but athletes. Roddy Gale Jr. I'm sorry, Roddy Gale Jr. is an elite athlete. Indiana. Trace Jackson Davis, obviously, yes. Jalen Hood-Schifino's he's a really good player, really good guard, but he doesn't scare you with his athleticism. Geronimo's a good athlete. But you see where I'm going with this, guys? Purdue, do they have really anybody that's really athletic that scares you? Not really. Illinois, I talked about Shannon. Meyer, I think we gave credit to Meyer. I don't think that he was that athletic to me. I put it like this: his athleticism didn't lead. Golly, my nose is itchy. His athleticism didn't lead to Illinois. It didn't really help Illinois. Wisconsin, no. Iowa, Chris Murray, good athlete, yes. Outside of that, not really. Minnesota, Ola Joseph, I like him. I think he's pretty good athlete. Farrell Payne, yes. I like him. Very good athlete. Wisconsin, not really. Nobody really jumps out at you. So I may have missed a school or two. Northwestern. But you get my point. Michigan, yes. Michigan has some athletes. Jett Howard, really good athlete as a two guard. Kobe Buffkin, good athlete as a two guard. Right? But you see what I'm saying? I'm having to go through the conference and I just can't be like Arkansas. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding? Alabama. Are you kidding? Tennessee's got athletes. Kansas has athletes. Texas has athletes. So SEC, ACC schools, athletes. Big East, yeah, they got some athletes. I mean, Big East is a little similar in the Big Ten, but even the Big East schools want to get up and down more. They want to run. They want to get more possessions. They want to shoot threes. They want to get downhill a little bit more. They're not as ball possession focused as the Big Ten. So yes, their athletes are different. Are different. Lex, I don't think they were a trick pony. I think they played to their style, and they were dominant playing to their style. But that style does not lead to deep runs in the NCAA tournament. Big Ten. Oh yeah, we got to that one. What you need is experienced guards and chemistry. As an Illinois fan, I'm starting to realize how important those things are. No doubt about it. When I ran through the Sweet 16 guards, there were only 2 sophomores. Everybody else was juniors and seniors that are running the show for those teams. Now, like I said, if you're going to go with freshmen, then you got to, at the guard position, then you got to hope that it pays off down the line. So will Purdue's guards learn from this experience? Of course they will. Next year, can Matt Painter hope to have some success in the tournament more than they did this season? Yes, because I believe Zach Edey's coming back. And so they'll be able to fill in some of those other positions, and Purdue will be right back. But can they get a return on the investment for throwing a freshman in to learn by fire? Can they get a return on their investment? We'll see. But you got to have experienced guard play. You got to have quickness, and you got to have chemistry. So you're exactly right. Izzo prepares for the postseason through the regular season. Most other Big Ten teams, programs playing the regular season, hopes of playing in the postseason. Very, very different expectations. Izzo is simply insisted that everyone who has a role in this program, they play for championships. That's right. They're building for the big show, and if they win a Big Ten title in the process, that's great. But look, who's still left standing in the Big Ten right now? Michigan State. Yep, 2 freshman guards. Kansas State guard did whatever he wanted to against Kentucky, Curtis Dietz. You're exactly right. And Kentucky was playing their best at the best time of year. I give Calipari a lot of credit. You can see his team struggle during the regular season, but at the time when they need to play, they just ran into a buzzsaw on Kansas State. Noel took over the game. And so this dude was working at a gas station. He's got life experience. He's tough. He plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he's a senior. It's hard to beat those dudes, man. It's hard to beat those upperclassmen. When I was a freshman at Illinois, we were number 4 seed, and we ironically went to Birmingham. That's why I had to shake off some bad memories from that. We were number 4 seed, and we played Austin Peay. And Austin Peay forced me into 6 turnovers. I was a freshman point guard. And some of the coverages and things that they were doing to us really screwed me up, sped me up, got me going faster than I was accustomed to going in the Big Ten. I had 6 turnovers, and I led to a premature ending to Ken Norman, Tony Weisinger, and Doug Altenberger's college careers. That really bothered me for years. So if you don't, and that was a building block along with being upset by Villanova in the second round when we didn't hit our free throws. That took years for me to be a Final Four point guard. You see where I'm going with this? So if you have freshmen that are trying to navigate an NCAA tournament, unless they're pros and they're playing with other pros, it's hard to do. It's hard. You gotta have veteran guards. You gotta have quickness too. Yes, veteran teams are hard to find. The better they will be. FAU, FDU, Fairleigh Dickinson University, bunch of old cats. FAU, a lot of old players. So UCLA was able to keep their core together. Tiger Campbell, Jaime Jaquez Jr., the Pac-12 Player of the Year, seniors. Gonzaga, Bolton is a senior. Timmy's a senior. Strothworth is a junior. Older dudes. Tyson Walker, senior. A.J. Hogarth from Michigan State, I believe, is a senior. Jaden Atkins is a sophomore, but he's going to take the mantle next year as a junior. So you're right. Big Ten has not evolved with this era of basketball. Toughness in the paint and flexibility to have transition basketball. Hard-nosed defense, upfront personal, protect the three-point line, guards with superior basketball IQ. Kansas State, Princeton, Duke, Miami, Arkansas, Houston, Michigan State has that type of guard. That's why they're advancing. Big Ten needs to catch up. I can't disagree. I'd all guard play in the Big Ten. They are young. Okay, Andrew. Why not both tournament and conference runs? I think you're referring to Big Ten teams. Good question. I mean, I just think that their style of play and their personnel does not equate to a deep tournament run. This season, Illinois' roster creation was for a late run in NCAA tournament. But what happens is you have one of your freshman guards that was starting to leave, and then you have two other guys that are kind of rotating. You got 3 point guards as freshmen. It's going to be – that's why the season – that's not why the season went the way it did for Illinois, but that's a reason why they were so inconsistent. You got to have some vets in that backcourt if you can. If you don't, then you hope that they get the experience that they received this season and come back next season, and you get a return on that dividend, on that investment. That's an investment. And so, like one of our other viewers so aptly noted, it's very difficult to keep rosters together in this era. But you got to figure it out. I didn't think Alabama would go far because their best players are freshmen. Brandon Miller. I'm not sure about the other starters, though. Carol, Javon Quinterly is a senior. Mark Sears is a junior. Mark Sears started his career at Ohio. He's in Alabama. He's from the state of Alabama. Was not recruited by the Crimson Tide out of high school. He had to go to Ohio, became a 1,000-point scorer up there, and he transferred back to Alabama. They also have a freshman point guard, Brandon, who's a high school All-American. He's really good, but he had the benefit of playing with these upperclassmen. Brandon Miller is the second coming of Paul George. This kid's the real deal. He's like a Carmelo Anthony when Carmelo was a freshman at Syracuse, and the reason that they were able to win a national championship. And Brandon Miller is surrounded by pros. Clowney is a 6'10" forward that shoots threes like a layup. He's a pro. Nick Pringle didn't even play hardly in the regular season. He had a double-double in the first round of the NCAA tournament. 6'9" kid. Gurley 6'9", shoots threes, plays hard. Charles Bediako, the 7-footer, one of the best shot blockers in the country. They've got dudes. They're deep, they're athletic, and they're long. So, yes, Alabama's the real deal. What's up, Kel Grand? I don't understand why you would start freshmen. How can you motivate them to grow? People must earn their roles to lead a team. It's not all about skill. It is who has earned the right to lead their team apart from the coaches. What does it do to your team when you have freshmen leading? John Maxwell, laws of leadership. Okay. Well, Kel, if your best players at that position are freshmen, you got to play them. That's what happened to Illinois. Illinois didn't have any upperclassmen that were point guards. Trent Frazier, DeMonte Williams, they're gone. They left. So in Purdue's situation, I went over there to watch practice in the preseason. Braden Smith was the best point guard on that team. David Jenkins came in as he played an integral role down the stretch, but he didn't play well enough in the preseason to keep Braden Smith out of the starting lineup. Brandon Newman, who played a lot down the stretch because of his versatility and his willingness to accept a new role as a defender, he didn't accept that role at the beginning of the year. That's why he wasn't starting. Fletcher Loyer was. So if your best players at that position are freshmen and you don't have any recourse, you can't go anywhere else, then that's who you got to play. That's why, to me, again, Purdue wasn't lobbying for any of these number one rankings or number one seeds. They just played their butts off this season. To me, they overachieved. Everyone else threw them into this best team in the country scenario. I didn't see it. But thank you, though. Thanks for tuning in. Big Ten style doesn't work in the tournament. These teams make it further athletics, skill, play wide style. One thing to mention is officiating is so different in the tournament. I don't agree with you on the officiating. I don't agree with that. Because here's the deal. Both teams have to adjust to however the game is being called. So I'll give you an example. Auburn-Houston, second round matchup. Really good game. First half, they're letting them hit. It's physical. Auburn's got the advantage. It's 41-31 at half. They're up on Houston. Looks like another number one seed's in trouble, right? Second half, the officials start blowing everything. They tightened up the way they called the game. So both teams had to adjust. One of the players, Wendell Green Jr. from Auburn, their starting point guard, who's a veteran, who's a really good player, almost got a technical because he's arguing with the official about a call. And I read his lips. He's like, you didn't call it in the first half. So the way the games officiate in the Big Ten compared to the way the games are officiated in the tournament, I don't think that hurts the Big Ten. It comes down to talent and what is that talent quick enough, athletic enough to play with the elite. That's what it comes down to. Style of play, the way that these teams play, their lack of quickness and their lack of athleticism is killing them in the Big Ten tournament. I thought the officiating at one point, why is Michigan State winning? Michigan State is as physical as any other Big Ten team, but they're in the Sweet 16. I don't think officiating has as much to do with it as that narrative gets passed around a lot. It's not that. I don't think it's that. Because I'm seeing these teams up close. I saw Maryland and Iowa go up against some hot, Maryland, in the Maryland's case, they went up against the best team in the country. And so foot speed wise, they kind of held their own for a half. Physical wise, they were fine. Alabama wasn't beating them up. And they weren't necessarily beating Alabama up, but they were getting to where they wanted to. So I don't think it's officiating. I think it's lack of personnel and quickness and athleticism. Shannon worked out well. Meyer was a disappointment. Inconsistency was the killer. Okay, so you say no consistent inside game. Dane Danger was, I thought he never got enough touches in the paint. I like Dane. He was a high percentage shooter. I don't think that he had 2 games with more than 12 attempts on the season. And you've got that kind of weapon. And Brad Underwood had to change offenses 3 different times this season because he's dealing with a new crew and he's dealing with youth in the lead guard position. So I agree with the too many threes. Brad is a big analytics guy, but you don't have to be analytics to know that Illinois from 2-point land was really good, and from 3-point land they were really bad. So I agree with you, and I think that Terrence Shannon attacked the rim well. I just thought that the way that Illinois played this season didn't necessarily allow them to get downhill as much. Tarun Reddy. The problem with the Big Ten is that coaches focus too much on training big men and not enough teaching guards to play in the open court. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's a style of play. If you've got big plotting centers, you're not going to open up the floor very much because you're going to want those guys near the bucket. So for Hunter Dickinson, Michigan, they're going to have to play. They can't open the floor up. Purdue's not going to be able to open the floor as long as Edey's on the floor. Same with Rutgers, with Cliff Amore up front. Anybody, Stephen Crowell with Wisconsin, you're not going to be able to open up the floor. If you've got a talented big that's as big as the Big Ten post players, the style of play is not going to be conducive to opening up the floor. So I think the Big Ten programs develop guards because, shoot, Boo Buie, from his freshman year to this year, night and day. So Northwestern did something right in developing their guards there, right? Good. I'm glad. I hope you did well in your bracket on that, Crumbs, because I knew FAU. I knew they'd give Memphis problems. I thought they would beat them, and they did. All right, Tarun, why is this? Why does the SEC do a much better job recruiting? And please, I know what Big Ten people say. Oh, we can't get them in school. Come on now. That's got to change. How does Duke get players in school? How does UCLA get players in school? How does Michigan get guys in school, for that matter? If the Big Ten administrations, they have to know, because the presidents have to sign off on the TV contracts and all that. So they have to know. Northwestern and Illinois administration, they got to know, don't they? That, do I need to pull up it's $337,000 per unit just to play in an NCAA tournament game. That goes to the conference pot that some conferences redistribute back out to the schools evenly. I'm not sure what the Big Ten does with it, but it might be in addition to the money that they're getting from their television contracts. So if you're reluctant to bring in more athletic players because maybe you think that academically they can't compete, well, then you ain't really trying to compete, in my opinion. How good would the Big Ten Conference be? And we'll start to see how really good they could be, because Mick Cronin at UCLA has it going. Now, he got the benefit of Tiger Campbell being there all this time. He got the benefit of Jaime Jaquez being there all this time. We'll see if he can continue to recruit and get guys in there that can continue this run that UCLA is on when they come to the Big Ten. But I need to see a higher level athlete being recruited to these Big Ten programs. I need to see them adjust the way that they play their games. Because, again, this flat feeling of pulling for Big Ten teams, like the Big Ten is like this. They're lip lickers. You start licking your lips in anticipation that something good is going to happen because you get 8 teams into the tournament. But then it's a resounding thud. Not even at the second weekend level, the first weekend. We can't get more than 1 team into the Sweet 16 out of 8. That's a disappointing season. I don't give a damn what you say about the conference. Yeah, it's great. It's great basketball, yes. But isn't this the money time? So I don't know. I need to see something different before, if they want me to go on the air calling Big Ten the best conference in the country. Because I'm not doing that anymore. Because that's my reputation as well as an analyst. And I don't want to look like a Big Ten homer. I need to call like it is. And this is disappointing. I mean, yes, Purdue losing to FDU, that was a shocker, but it ain't all on Purdue. I'm sorry. Um, it's not all on Purdue. It's just a resounding thud for the conference, period, outside of Michigan State. So I would like to see something change. What's more important to school, money or ships and recruiting? Great question. Teams like Wisconsin, Purdue, and Illinois haven't adjusted to the modern game. I think Brad Underwood has. I think he has. When you go out and get the transfers that he got, Illinois got a lot quicker this season. They weren't that quick last season. They got a lot quicker. Terrence Shannon, he was one of the best at getting to the free throw line in Big Ten because he could get downhill. Epps, Sky Clark, Sincere Harris, they're quicker. So Illinois got quicker. Purdue, not necessarily, but you got Zach Edey. Statistically, he's the best player in the country. So you got to ride the big fella if that's who you got. Wisconsin's going to play their style, Tarun. They're not going to change. And they've had success. They've had tournament success with that style. Their personnel, though, was lacking to me. They just didn't have any team quickness. They didn't have a lot of depth. It's going to be interesting to see the direction that Wisconsin goes in terms of trying to improve their roster. I think the Big Ten is a tough conference that requires very physical play and banged up during the regular season. So when they're completely spent, it's a horrible way to start championship play. Yeah, Anastasia might be right. Good to see you, Anastasia. She may be right, but everybody's banged up. Big 12 plays a grueling schedule. SEC plays a grueling schedule. Everybody's banged up. I don't know that we can lean on that anymore, Anastasia. The magic number was 70. If you score 70 points, you were going to win 90% of the time. I believe only 5 teams scored 70 points and lost. Joe Stovall is always on it. So I need to go back and look at that, but you got to score. You got to defend, but you got to score. Both Singer, this is going to be interesting. I gotta do a deep dive into Kansas State. I've seen them, but I got to do a deep dive to give you a more informed opinion. So I'm going to hold out on that, but I like the way that Michigan State's playing. Miami did run Indiana out of the gym. And that quickness and that guard play, it was everything. Okay, so I thought, speaking of positionless, I thought Illinois did a pretty good job of that. Meyer can play multiple positions. Terrence Shannon can play multiple positions. Coleman Hawkins could play multiple positions. RJ Melendez could play multiple positions. So can Luke Goody. I thought Illinois' roster was built with multiple guys having positionless capabilities. Did it come together like it looked on paper? No. But I thought Illinois tried to do a little bit better with that. Some other team, but it's hard to be positionless when you're focusing on the big. When you got quality bigs like the Big Ten does, it's hard to be positionless because if you go positionless, then you lose the effectiveness of why you have a big in the first place. If you have an elite big, you need to run your offense through that big. You can't be positionless with supreme bigs. Oh, you're talking about Andrew Funk. Andrew Funk, he lit up Illinois like that too. He had to skip the game so he can go to swimming lessons. Okay, Michigan State. Michigan State, I'm optimistic. We have two guards. Walker can shoot. Hogarth can dish it for Hauser and Akins. They play defense, rebound. Of course, Tom Izzo, I'd ride with him. I've been saying that. I know y'all thought I was crazy when we were talking about one of the teams that could advance in the tournament from the Big Ten. I said I like Michigan State. Somebody said I was crazy. Okay. Yes, Carol. No, I'm with you. Can't do that. Thank you, Romy. Appreciate you, my man. Yeah, how about them Spartans carrying the Big Ten torch? You're right, Kevin. What's the latest with Michael Shrewsbury? Will he get a James Franklin type deal to stay at Penn State, or will he return to Indiana at Notre Dame? Good question, Ian, because Michael Shrewsbury's name has come up in a couple different searches. Georgetown was one of them, but Georgetown went and hired Ed Cooley from Providence today. St. John's hired Rick Pitino. I can't believe this dude is still getting jobs because the rules don't apply to everybody. I'm just going to say it. Rick Pitino can coach, but if the ability to coach was the only reason why you get a head coaching job, that would be one thing. Whatever. I'm gonna leave that alone. So I don't know if Michael Shrewsbury is going to get the type of deal at Penn State. I don't know that the Penn State administration values basketball. I don't know that they value football. Football is everything. They may value wrestling actually at Penn State more than they value basketball. I'm just being honest. So would Penn State get – I know they're not going to give him a James Franklin type deal. I know that. His name has been rumored at Notre Dame. His name was rumored at Georgetown. So Georgetown's off the block. So, Ian, I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to see. I doubt Penn State would rip up his contract and give him an extension. It would be a smart thing to do. I wouldn't hold my breath. What do you think about Cooley and Pitino getting new jobs? I'm a huge Pitino fan. Looks like this will be his last run at St. John's. I love Ed Cooley. I love everything he stands for. I think he will turn Georgetown into a perennial Big East power, and they'll have a presence in the NCAA tournament moving forward. The DMV, the Washington, D.C. area, is a talent-rich area. And with a guy as charismatic as Ed Cooley, Georgetown is going to be a national power soon. Rick Pitino, if anybody can get St. John's rolling again, it will be Pitino. You see what he did with Iona? They're the class of that conference. He had them in a tournament every year. He is knowledgeable. He's passionate. You just don't know what Rick Pitino is going to do off the court. So it's good hire for St. John's. I thought the way that they did Mike Anderson was dirty. And Mike Anderson has a lawsuit now against St. John's because they fired him for cause. And these schools are trying to do this to get away from paying these coaches. Kevin Ollie had to go back and sue UConn, and he won. So UConn has to pay him $11 million. They were trying not to pay him what he was owed in his contract, and they fired him for cause. Just like St. John's fired Mike Anderson for cause because they didn't want to pay the rest of his contract. But Mike Anderson's suing them now. So hopefully he gets his money from St. John's. I wish the best for St. John's, but they need to give Mike Anderson his money. Underwood said he created a team for the tourney. What happened? Guard play. Just didn't have the guard play. Didn't have the lead guard to be able to take you to the promised land. Transfer portal is awesome. I love it. Yeah, because teams can do a remake overnight and become very competitive overnight. Michigan State can win their region and beat Tennessee in a grind-out game. Here's the thing with Tennessee. Y'all heard me say it, and I'll say it again. I don't care. I don't trust Rick Barnes. That was a heck of a win over Duke. That was a great win. And they had some dudes play out of their mind. Namwa, the post player, he might have had a career game. They played out of their mind. And they played well against Duke. So you got to credit some to Rick Barnes. I don't trust him, though. So when you look at Florida Atlantic versus Tennessee, don't be surprised to see Florida Atlantic win that game. Michigan State, Kansas State is going to be a heck of a game. But yes, Michigan State has a chance to get to the Final Four. I was very surprised Spartans beat them, Carol. I thought Marquette was a Final Four caliber team, at least Elite Eight. I was glad to see Michigan State win that game. I was sad for my man Marcus Shaka Smart and his team because I got to know them. I covered them quite a bit. I thought that they would make a deep run, but that just goes to show you how good Tom Izzo is in preparing his teams for the NCAA tournament. They really dominated that game. So big ups to Michigan State. Oh, there's no question about it, Kevin. See, because here's the thing: on paper, things look good, but you gotta put all that stuff together. And chemistry is as important as having so-called big-time transfers. Because if the chemistry's there, you saw what happened this season with Illinois. Let's see. Let me get somebody that hasn't commented yet. Oh, I think this is my man, Steph. What's up, Steph? You can scout sets and practice covering certain called plays. It's tough to set a plan for a ball coming downhill. Protect the basket or three in transition. No doubt, Steph. You got to have guys can make plays. You got to be able to adjust in game. If you can't, you're not gonna go far in this tournament. Yeah, I think statistically, Jamie, he's player of the year material. Yes, no doubt. Even with the first round loss, yes, I still think statistically he was dominant. The best player is Brandon Miller at Alabama. Dusty May, thank you, Matthew. That's right, Dusty May, the head coach for Florida Atlantic. Wow, I got a lot of comments here. Hoop baller scoop fans, we know Tom Izzo can get to the Final Four, but it's time for Tom Izzo to win the title. We're here, this Mr. March, but you want to be Mr. April. Come on, hoop baller scoop. Are you serious? He's the only one that's got a title in the Big Ten, albeit 20 years ago. I get you. Funny, man. Days of the Blue Bloods over? Question mark. NIL portal seem to create parity. Joseph, it's definitely different. The have and the have-nots is starting to shrink a little bit because of the transfer portal and NIL. So are the days of the Blue Bloods over? I don't think it's over, but I don't think you'll see them as dominant as we've grown accustomed to seeing them in the past. That's a great point, Joseph. Thank you. T Hop 42, my bracket is destroyed. No more emotional picks in the future. Sorry, Illini. Hey, T Hop, that's a great part of this. You can put your team to go far in the tournament. You know, that's what makes this the best sporting event ever, because you've got emotion involved. It's going to fight with some of your logic. Then you got to guess. Then it's great. So don't give up on being emotional for your picks. But what's more important, you want to see your team do well, or you want to win your bracket? That's what you got to think about. Coach Cal has a lifetime contract. This is why he isn't on hot seat. The buyout is over $50 million. He has 6 years left on his deal. Yeah, but he's brought, Cal's brought good success to Kentucky. So I don't see any problem with that. Michigan's recruiting class is okay. They'll be in the portal more than anything. Kevin, I'm going to remind you and the rest of the people, Michigan's been hurt by committed recruits going to the G League. They've lost 3 in the last 2 years. Some dogs, some top 25 dudes, 3 of them were supposed to be in Michigan jerseys. They went to the G League. So Juwan Howard was doing a heck of a job recruiting. He just couldn't get all of them to come to campus. So he's doing a pretty good job. Why does Calipari with all these exit never gets on the hot seat? Well, I think if he continues to have that pool, eventually Kentucky fans will start demanding that he win and get deeper into the tournament because Kentucky likes to win. They're just used to winning. So Illinois chemistry was off at times on the court. If Brad can retain these young guys, their future is bright. Shane, I agree. If Epps, Sincere Harris can stay and develop around some of the other talent that is being brought in from recruiting and transfer, yeah, I agree with you. Doc Bell, yeah, you could throw Sean Miller in that as well, of Xavier. And I know Sean, I like Sean, played against him, all that, but he can go in that category as well. Didn't Sky Clark hit the transfer portal and he's going to Louisville? Yes. 6 different schools in 6 years, Aaron Janowski. And okay, Sky Clark's timing for when he dropped on Twitter that he's going to Louisville. Do you know when that was, ladies and gentlemen? Sky Clark put that he committed to Louisville 5 minutes after Illinois lost to Arkansas in the tournament. That's petty. In my opinion, that's pretty freaking petty. JYD Brent, he should take the heat. That's Kentucky. They pay him top dollar to win championships. He should get heat. That's what this business is about wins and losses. I don't care where you are. If you're not winning at the level that particular program expects and has grown to expect based on past performances, he should get heat. Should get heat. Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about it, Mark. You would have definitely been in the tournament had Watt Mag not been injured. I definitely agree with that. Wait a minute. Can you explain? Let's see. Can you explain what NIL is and how these players can have NILs worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? Is NIL handled by the teams? Okay, Joe. NIL is name, image, and likeness. And so what happens is there are programs and there are what do they call them? These. So an outside entity that is not the athletic department will create an LLC, and there's a word I'm missing that Indiana set up early, and it's basically a vehicle that will allow people who are interested to put money into this vehicle that then in turn this LLC, this business, this company can turn around and offer deals to these athletes. In addition to regular companies can now directly contact these players and offer deals. So you see during the NCAA tournament, there are players like Toppin at Kentucky had an AT&T deal. You saw he was sitting on the couch and with the mascot and with the spokeslady, I can't remember her name, spokeswoman, Lucy or something like that. That's an NIL deal. So AT&T wanted to get Toppin in a commercial. They pay him an agreed upon amount. That's an NIL deal. Kentucky itself, the school itself can create this thing. It's complicated. I may not be explaining it quite the way, but the schools themselves are not directly involved. The schools aren't coming out of their own pockets to create this NIL money. Does that make sense? I know it's convoluted, and I tried to give you the best way that I can explain it to have it make sense, but there it is. Collective. Thank you, Andrew Williams. Collectives. They're LLCs that are created to be kind of go between or middlemen, for lack of a better word, to set up payments and offer deals to these athletes and give incentives for athletes to come to a particular school. Brian Edwards, great question. What direction does the Illini go next year at point guard? Look, what two teams had the best success in the tournament this season out of the Big Ten? Michigan State and Maryland. What did Michigan State and Maryland do for the point guard position? They went to a different conference, a quote-unquote smaller conference, and got a veteran point guard that is displayed success, not ranked, that's 1,000-point scorer or averaged 19 points a game at Charlotte like Jameer Young did, or was a player of the year in the conference like Tyson Walker was when he was at Northeastern. That's what I do. I'm going to find a point guard like Cameron Winter from Drexel, 1,000-point scorer that Micah Shrewsbury goes and gets and brings in as a point guard. That's what I'm doing. Now, I keep Jaden Epps and Sincere Harris on the roster and let them battle with a veteran point guard, because then they're still getting tutelage from this veteran guard. They're also going to play, because Jaden Epps is probably going to start next year at point guard. Sincere Harris needs to get extended minutes if he can continue to get stronger and work out some of the rough patches on his offensive game. But I'd go get a veteran point guard that has 2 years eligibility left, similar to what Tyson Walker has had with Michigan State. That's what I would do. But very good question. Let me see as I wrap up. Just got back on, so following maybe old news, but yep. Yeah, we talked about that. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen, for me. Wait a minute. Let me get out of that. So my banners will come up. All right. So that'll do it for me on what's wrong with the Big Ten. And we'll see how far Michigan State can carry the Big Ten flag through the rest of the conference tournament. And let's hope that they continue to win and they get to the Final Four, because it would be a great, great story for Tom Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans having success, carrying the Big Ten torch, and representing. Thanks so much, guys, for joining in. Now that I'm not working as much because I was dog tired, I may come in with different things as they come up. But in the off season, I'm following NIL, I'm following the transfer portal, and recruiting. So make sure you check back with Bardo's Breakdown. And I'm going to do this each week and probably a little bit more. I'm going to have these interviews with former Big Ten greats. So make sure you check back with Bardo's Breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you guys. Love you. Enjoy the rest of the NCAA tournament, and go Spartans. Till next time, y'all. Holla, y'all.